Trump is pissed. He will be leaving NATO. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm Mike O'Reilly, O'Reilly's Corner. Go and take a step back today and ask a question that still makes a lot of people uncomfortable. Should the United States leave NATO? Not reform it, not pressure allies to pay more, actually leave. Here's an even more uncomfortable question for you. Did you skirt away from even indirectly answering the U.S.'s call for assistance against Iran because they now fear the massive Muslim populations in their countries? As we know, for more than 75 years, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, better known as NATO, has been the cornerstone of American foreign policy. Created in 1949 in the aftermath of World War II, NATO was designed as a collective defense alliance, keyword there, collective defense alliance to deter Soviet expansion and stabilize Europe. The central principle known as Article 5 declares an attack on one is an attack on all. And at the time, that logic made sense. Europe was devastated. The Soviet Union posed a real and immediate threat. The United States stepped in, not only as a military protector, but as an architect of new global order. But look around. This is not the world of 1949. The original purpose of NATO was to counter the Soviet threat. That threat disappeared in 1991 with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Yet NATO didn't dissolve then. Instead, it expanded. The question is not whether NATO was necessary. It was. The question is whether the United States should continue to offer a free umbrella of protection to affluent European countries who can now well afford to protect themselves. That umbrella, by the way, is free to the Europeans who increasingly mock and ridicule us. It's not free to us, though, the American taxpayers. I challenge anyone to explain to me why we should continue to protect the Europeans when they can well afford to protect themselves. The U.S. accounts for a massive portion of the alliance's own world defense spending. In fact, the United States contributes roughly 70% of total NATO defense expenditures. One country, us, paying 70%. That's ridiculous. How the hell did this happen, and why is it still the case? European countries have failed to meet even the alliance's baseline target of spending 2% of their GDP on defense. American taxpayers are subsidizing and providing the defense of wealthy European nations, countries that have economic capacity to defend themselves, but would rather rely on the United States as a free security guarantor. NATO's not a partnership of equals, not even close. It's a system in which the United States carries the heaviest burden while others benefit disproportionately. The European Union collectively represents one of the largest economic blocs in the world. Many of these countries have advanced militaries, modern technologies, and significant industrial capacity. In response to President Trump's criticism and because of the war in Ukraine, European nations have begun to increase their defense spending, only just beginning. Europe has the means but not the incentive to defend itself. If the United States stepped back, European nations would be forced to take responsibility for their own security. It's time to cut the apron strings. Well past time. The most politically charged argument comes from President Trump, of course, and his administration. During the ongoing conflict with Iran, the United States has requested support from NATO allies, but many of the European countries have refused to participate or even to provide minimal logistical assistance.
A major rift is emerging between the United States and its European allies, a day after accusing NATO partners of not backing Washington in the war with Iran. US President Donald Trump has now said he's reconsidering America's membership of NATO. In an interview, Trump called the transatlantic alliance a paper tiger. And when asked if he would reconsider American membership of the alliance, Trump said yes. Even the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has indicated that the United States could soon reassess its relationship with NATO, pointing to a clear shift in how the alliance is being viewed in the context of the war in Iran.
So I think there's no doubt, unfortunately, after this conflict is concluded, we are going to have to re-examine that relationship. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO and that alliance for our country. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, and he'll have to make it. We're going to finish the job here.
Rubio's comment came after Trump, in a strongly worded social media post, criticized US allies like the United Kingdom and France for their lack of commitment towards the American-Israeli war in Iran. Trump urged them to take greater responsibility for their own security, especially in the Strait of Hormuz, the critical oil and gas trade route, effectively controlled by Iran. European responses have been reflective of their doubts over the war. US allies such as France, Spain and Italy have refused certain forms of military support for US operations against Iran, including denying airspace or the use of military bases.
They have very short, very selective memories. Did they forget the Marshall Plan or the Berlin airlift? The lack of European support during the Iran conflict didn't just create political tension. It had real, practical effects on how the U.S. military had to operate. Spain not only blocked access to major joint bases, but even closed its airspace to the U.S. military. Spain, who refuses to pay even 2% of their minuscule GDP on their own defense. Are we that stupid? Cut them loose. Italy denied use of a critical airbase in Sicily for transporting weapons, and France refused overflight rights for certain military operations. I think it's ironic that we can't even fly over a country that we liberated, and we can't even fly over the tens of thousands of Americans who gave up their lives for France and who are buried there. We can't even fly over it. What are they afraid of? It costs them nothing for us to utilize joint bases or to overfly their country. Nothing. So I ask again, what are they afraid of? Did Europeans skirt away from even indirectly answering the U.S.'s call for assistance because they now fear their own massive Muslim population in their own countries? Look, they're supposed to enable support and coordination, but it's apparent they will only do so when it suits them. So what the hell are we counting on? Why are we still in this non-existent alliance? If NATO members are unwilling to support the United States in its military operations, even indirectly, then the value of that alliance really comes into question. For decades, many European countries have relied on the United States for security, allowing them to prioritize domestic spending over defense. While this may have made sense during the Cold War, it's ludicrous today, absolutely ludicrous. The United States does not benefit from NATO membership. NATO was born at a specific historical moment. It played a crucial role in stabilizing Europe and deterring the Soviet Union. I agree with all of that. For decades, it was the pillar of global security. History doesn't stand still. Today, the world is different. The threats are different. The balance of power is different. And the United States' needs are different. They no longer reflect those realities. This recent tension over the Iran conflict has intensified concerns, highlighting the obvious. There's no reciprocity in this lopsided alliance. Now, critics, of course, will say the opposite. NATO still defers conflict, still strengthens U.S. influence, and still matters in ways that aren't always obvious. That's for sure. Well, if this is true, wouldn't you think that the member nations who are benefited most would be eager to support this necessary alliance to ensure their own protection? It forces that fundamental question. Should the United States continue to anchor its foreign policy in an alliance built for a different era, or should it chart a new course based on new challenges that face America today? That answer to me is clear. It's time to rethink NATO. It's time to leave it behind. Hey, thanks for stopping by our wireless corner. I hope you guys enjoyed being here as much as I enjoy having you. Do me a favor, on your way out the door, just smash those like and subscribe buttons. It really helps. Thanks again for joining the wireless corner. I'm Michael Riley. See you next time.